Oh,
And we're back.
missed a click and even made it.
You missed your
Back.
click?
Yep. Hit that go live button late.
That explains it. I was wondering if there was a little delay there.
Yeah.
A little
Yep.
weird. A little weird.
Thought I hit it.
So close, but so far. So close, but so far. So, there were some games. There's some surprising games.
I feel like it was a big week. Personally.
Yeah, it was a massacre for some of the leaders.
Oof.
I was very surprised that it really hurt my fantasy, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. There were some. I guess you'd call them upsets.
Yeah. I mean, one of them, I think, definitely was. I don't think anyone saw that result coming.
No.
I mean, yeah.
But this one, Thursday night, I'm pretty sure everyone saw coming.
Yeah.
Just not as handed as it was, though.
I think if they had Patterson, I would have expected to be closer. But since that dude has essentially been their offense, I wasn't that surprised by the result.
Yeah, I wasn't either. You're not really threatened by Mike Davis, and you just have to cover Pitts.
Yeah. Yep. And
That's it.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, that's all they did.
Yeah.
Pitts, when I was paying attention, he had like one catch.
He finished with 3 catches for 29 yards. So, yeah, they basically shut him down. Which, New England's New England. They got a defense. They have an efficient QB. The fact that with how it started, and everyone was like, they're rebuilding, and they are now leading their division.
Yeah, I mean, were they ever really rebuilding? What they lost was a quarterback. And yeah, they had a little bye week because they lost basically their starting defense due to COVID last season.
There was a lot. So it wasn't just when granted Brady accounted for a lot of it, but it was something like they were without between either trades, COVID, and injuries. They were missing something like 70% of the guys who played snap. Like the percentage of snaps played by people, 70% of those people were missing. So, some of them were traded, some of them were cut. Brady was a lot of them, obviously, but still, it's like they were just not all those guys were just injuries and COVID.
Yeah,
so they were still they had to do.
They're getting back to classic Belichick and Patriot games where they just control the 3 phases, play great defense, and just dink and dunk their way to touchdowns.
Yeah, they're still trying to find that receiver, the receiving threat, but their running backs are still solid running backs that are good in the passing game. And then they use their tight ends. They're not like world beaters like Gronk was, but they still have good, solid tight ends. And so they're still just really finding that one, that Edelman type receiver who can be the guy.
Yeah, and I mean he's not on the roster. At least that's me. But sure they'll find him.
Yeah.
Warren's good, but so far none of them have really stuck out as a clear number 1.
Yeah. Which is surprising because they had like a lot of good prospects that they coming out of college and just so far they haven't panned out, which is surprising. But I don't know, they're making it work.
Yeah.
Speaking of making it work, Ravens. You made it work.
I think they lucked out though too with Fields being knocked out. Andy Dalton played really well. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played really well, but it gave you one less guy to look out for.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also the fact that it's Matt Nagy. I'm sure that helped.
Which that hot seat's getting hotter.
Yeah. So, at least Mooney, man, that dude had a game. I mean, really, him and Godwin both, but Mooney, 5 for 1.
He had a game on my bench.
But I'm pretty sure he had a lot of people's bench.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'm curious. So their total So the Bears looks like they had something like, let's see, 370 yards total offense. Mooney was 121 and Godwin was 104 of those yards. Those two guys accounted for like 2/3 of the yards.
Which I don't know if that says more of the Ravens secondary and like they can't handle speed, or if it says more about their pass rush and they can't.
I mean,
So the quarterback put that pressure on.
we are a long ways away from the days where the Baltimore was just like a suffocating defense. They still have a solid defense, but they're not the same Baltimore we've known for a while. But they're still able to do it. They have enough there, I think.
Yeah, I just like watching them play. It's like you guys have the names basically on defense, especially in the secondary. So you got Marlon Humphrey. They got another big name.
Let's see. Pull up the roster because I don't know all Roman offhand. So the secondary, you're looking at Humphrey. I don't know. These guys aren't really jumping out to me so far.
Marcus Peters is on IR. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
That explains a little more. Because I'm like, they should be playing much better.
Yeah. I mean, they should. They should be. But
should.
I mean, they won with a backup. Yeah, it was against another backup, but still, they did what they needed to do. They were also one of the few division leaders who actually won their games, so I think they'll take that.
That says a little more.
Yeah.
Speaking of division leaders not winning their next games, Packers, Vikings.
I'll be honest, I 100% expect them to lose. When it got tied, I was like, well, this is it. The game's over. So the fact that they did it with a kick in overtime, like, okay, cool. Still not confident they'll win next week because, that's just the pessimist in me.
Yeah, it's that low expectation, high result,
Yeah.
Because if they do, it's like, oh yeah, even better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right there with you. Since locally they switched over, and it looked like Cousins threw that pick at the end.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yep, he done Cousins it up.
Well, like, I was watching, so I saw, I can't remember whose touchdown it was. I was like, oh, cool. And then so it was Jefferson's touchdown. I was like, awesome. And then I saw the freaking bomb that Rodgers threw because I was watching a red zone. And I was like, oh, well, there it is. Okay, give him a freaking 75-yard TD. And then somehow to win on a field goal was just surprising. Given their history with.
Yep. Yeah, but it was a chip shot.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
even still, the history.
I mean, friggin' 19-yard chip shot lost a playoff game, so. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe because it wasn't a playoff game, and it wasn't like a Sunday or Monday night game either, so it wasn't in the big lights. It was just a normal game.
Yeah, but man, friggin' Jefferson.
Oh yeah, he helped me out. He helped me out big.
Yeah. Like, guy's been a beast. I understand why Thielen doesn't get as many catches, because when you have Jefferson, like, what do you need? But I'm glad they have been trying to actually keep Thielen more involved more, because A, I have him on fantasy, but B, I think that's better for the team in general. Is it keeps him engaged, and it also makes it so you have to key on both of them. You can't just, key on Jefferson. So, and that in turn opens up other stuff.
That's probably the danger of Zimmer is, you've said it many times, he wants to run first, run second, run third.
Yeah.
And he's not utilizing his receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have some really great catchers. Even Osborne, he's shown out. And then further down the list, you have D.D. Westbrook. He's not bad, but like you can schematically make this very dynamic offense out of the guys you have.
Oh yeah.
But
well,
it's like,
DC Johnson isn't horrible. And then we don't have Irv Smith, but Conklin's a good tight end. And then you got Ham, who's also a really good fullback. It's they have the pieces that I'm surprised they don't do more with them. And then also not only that, like you have Cook, you also have Madison, who's just not necessarily quite as good as Cook, but he's still a really good running back. He'd be a starter on a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean that's also a question too. If that's putting more of the game on, Kirk, on Cousins, and do you want that?
Well, I think because Kirk has shown that you have to kind of keep him. Same thing, keep him engaged, keep his confidence up, and help him make get those early wins throughout the game. That's when he starts doing well. It's because otherwise he goes off the rails, and it's also one of those if they know you're going to run, all they got to do is load up and then wait for the inevitable pass, and that's when things start falling apart for him. Because he's throwing he's making desperation. He's not whatever. And I also the O-line has seemed to start doing better. I still think it has a long ways to go, but hopefully that also continues to improve because that's also a big part of it. Is the O-line just been a huge pain point for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I had more faith in the Vikings than you did on this one.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, given your overall optimism towards them, but
can you blame me?
Yeah, no, I can't. Even I went into this Jaguars game, which we'll get to very we'll see.
Yeah,
but sign of the apocalypse.
Doesn't bode well for the next time we have to do it in the playoffs because we used up all our luck.
I know, right? You used your one pass. But the Packers defense, I feel isn't as good as everyone lets them off to be.
Yeah.
Because they have a good pass rush, but they're not great. So if you have a halfway decent O-line, you can get enough time there. Their secondary really isn't the greatest. They do make the most out of their opportunities, which is what you want, but people get free. As Jefferson showed.
Yeah.
And Thielen. So it's they're good, but I think they also live and die by Rodgers.
Oh, they do. They really do, because especially they still have Dylan, who's a good running back, losing Jones. It's their offense. Yeah, they have Scantling, but it's Rodgers passing to Adams. That's their offense.
Yep.
Which they still can do, even when Adams is double covered. They still pull it off. I don't know how, but
which I think is ridiculous because Dylan is a really good running back. You also have other weapons, but also if you didn't pick up Dylan were available this week or this past week, you missed out on an opportunity because he did pretty well fantasy.
Yeah, I mean I would have, but he'd already been snagged a few weeks ago because Jones had already been hurt before. So, yeah, you want to talk about bad luck with running backs? My starting quarterback and both my starting running backs. Wilson, Carson, and Jones.
Oof.
Yeah.
Which I think... speaking of running backs...
Because you know how I had to start last week and did not do well for me? Zach Moss for the Bills.
Yeah, as a whole, not
Eckler
and Taylor. They could have benched the rest of their team.
In one of Katie Ann's leagues, she lost by 212 because someone had. I don't think it was Eckler, but they had Taylor. They had either Mahomes or Herbert. Then I think Jefferson. And one other guy. So you're talking 100+ points just from 3 or 4 dudes.
Yep.
I mean, even in our league, Meg had I know she had Taylor and someone else. She got 100 points from 3 guys. I mean, shoot. Jeremy, he had Herbert and Eckler. That was brutal.
Yeah, that sounds pretty brutal. And then I'm the guy who has Dylan, and I drafted him. That was not even a waiver pickup.
Oh.
Yeah, she made me finger putt this week. I thought it was good. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, you lost pretty bad by that. But don't worry, I still think I got blown out more. So don't worry.
Yeah, Taylor with 185 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills. It's like,
yeah. Oh, that was the other part.
Just
I had the Bills defense minus 4 points.
Yeah, that was rough. I had them in some spots too. It was rough, but in spite of that, I won.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with them. I don't. It really doesn't make sense.
They're up and down. It seemed like they weren't ready for the running attack because really, like, Wentz only had 20 attempts. That's okay.
Yeah.
Looks like combined rushing well over 40 attempts, so they just weren't ready to stop the run. And I don't know if it's a sign that if that's a weakness the defense has, or if they just didn't plan for it. They just planned on stopping Wentz, thinking he was the offense, but in reality, it's Taylor.
Well, so I do. Let's see. So one thing I do remember, and this actually came up because a lot of people were so. Their main D tackle, Lachulele, he was gone because of COVID. But I actually feel bad for him though, so because he's one of the few people where it's like, okay, he didn't get vaccinated, it makes sense. So he set out last year due to COVID. Because I actually remember this coming out of college when he did his physical, they found something with his heart, and they're like, you might not be able to play football again, ever. He was able to pass physical. They're like, okay, it's manageable, but so like it's one of those. I understand why, he has been able to do that because, yeah, that can mess it up. But long story short, they were missing him, which might have been a big part of that, especially that game.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. But it doesn't explain. Looks like they've also really been struggled. Like apparently their O-line is really not doing its job.
It seems pretty porous, and the Colts have a good D-line. They have a really good D-line, and they, you can't understate their linebacking core either. So they got Darius Leonard, the man, and then Xavier Rhodes is pretty good. So they have a decent secondary back there. So the Colts are dangerous.
Yeah, honestly,
that's me.
I've been thinking that they were right there, and they were going to be one of those teams that was going to make a run. And I was just wondering when they were going to do it. I'll let you field that question.
I'll never understand. I wish they didn't, but at the same time, when the Niners see the salary cap as a real entity, they did their best to do right by him. Because either way, they were going to pay him a lot of money. So it's either you pay him a lot of money, you keep him, or you let him go somewhere else in a trade. He gets paid more money. And then they had a guy picked out in the draft. Obviously, he hasn't necessarily panned out, Kinlaw, but they're like, you could piece this guy in and let him go make more money somewhere else. Like giving Fred Warner how much money? Yeah. I mean, that was another big question. Because I'm sure at the time they justified it because they were able to trade off Buckner, got Kinlaw from the pick, but also distribute the money between Fred Warner and I think it was Jaquiski Tartt. But if they pulled a Rams move and like even Arizona where they push the salary cap towards the future. Steve. I mean, Fred's been playing really well, at least recently. But I think they've been letting him do what he does better instead of making him blitz all the time.
Which is the opposite of Barr. Barr, they just need to let him blitz. But instead, they always put him in coverage.
Yeah. They let him draw back into coverage now. and
Yeah.
play the running back.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they can get back on track. Or if it's just been, we're seeing that they just had it last year was their chance and they just blew it.
Yeah,
I mean, also,
I think they're getting back on track, but yeah, you got to take Taylor out of their game, and then it becomes a real game for you at that point.
yeah. But I mean, at the same time, though, it's like you really look. So they lost their opener against Steelers. Yeah, they beat the Chiefs. That was when the Chiefs were spiraling. Then they lost to the Titans. And then they lost to the Jags out of freaking nowhere. And then just lost to the Colts. So, like, if you look at the teams they've lost to, they've been the better teams on their schedule, and they still play the Patriots. They still play the Bucks. They play the Patriots twice, still, and the Patriots are on the upswing. And they play the Panthers, who've shown like they were up or down, but they had the capability to. And then even the Saints, like, are up and down. So they actually have a fairly rough schedule ahead of them, and I'm curious to see how
that makes me see. So I got a feeling then, because they're dropped games, which is, you said, the Titans,
Titans, Steelers,
Colts, which
and Jags.
Decent. Colts. These are all teams that have really good defenses for the most part. Jaguars have a very aggressive defense. The Steelers, they at least had TJ Watt. They had pressure. Titans, they've shown that they could be a really good elite defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's just full on the key, is that like the offense is being taken out of the game by these great defenses.
Yeah, their O-line, which is weak, so
that
they
might
could
just be
conceivably
a seal.
they could conceivably get knocked out of the playoffs, because you figure Patriots have a good defense, they play them twice. Bucks have a good defense, they play them. The Panthers' defense, when it's on, is good. Doesn't bode well for them in the long term.
No, I mean, they might fall out. Who knows? But it's going to see as they can move Allen to space. I think they'll have a chance, but
yeah,
you can't do that every time.
Their running backs also haven't been getting it done too, which I think is part of their problem.
They don't have a running game. Yeah. At least they don't commit to it either. So that's kind of an all-around issue. Speaking of the Patriots being up, everything right now is set for a Tampa Bay New England Super Bowl. And we say it's not rigged.
I mean, we'll get to Tampa, but like they do not look like the team from last year at all.
No.
Yeah.
We can get to the next one, which is Lions Browns.
I mean, good on the Lions for keeping it close.
Closer than it should have been.
What's up with the Browns?
Thanks, Swift. What's up with the Browns is that they just fed Chubb.
No, like Mayfield really has just been looking. He's been looking more like Matt Jones at the start of the season than Baker Mayfield from last year.
Yeah, they really should have sat him this game and started Keenum. Because he's getting over, the knee contusion, the damage to his throwing shoulder, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, those are just some key injuries, because it's your whole body you're throwing with. Like,
yeah.
They should have sat him. And I think it's going to come to a point where he's going to injure himself enough that he's just going to need to be benched. But
I mean, so here's something. I don't think I've ever seen this. And imagine, so the Browns, and this is another reason why they should have sat him, because the Lions was their easy game. So they play at the Ravens on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
And then they have a bye week, and then they host the Ravens. Which I don't think I've ever seen a schedule where you had like the same team 2 games in a row. Even with a bye week, that's still, I don't know if I've ever really seen that.
I've only seen it last week going into the first round of the playoffs. Steelers, Ravens did it.
Yeah, so going to the playoffs, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever seen it in the regular season.
No. Which
is surprising. So, yeah, that was definitely the time to rest Mayfield because you got to. Well, I mean, I guess actually like try to get to the Ravens once into your bye week, but that's asking.
But still, yeah, you're pushing a little hard there.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of that, you could probably use the mental break because he's making mistakes. But
Yeah.
that could maybe be worse. So,
like even his press conference, he just seems beaten a lot more than normal. Like just down, which is fair.
well, the injuries are a big mental hit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Dude needs like a vacation or something.
Yeah, but either way, Browns over Lions. It was a game.
It happened. Move on.
Yeah.
This one.
Speaking of, I
was actually impressed.
I was too. I was wanting to watch it.
Heineke because he actually did okay. He better than both my other QBs, but
let's see. Oh yeah, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. Scary Terry showed up.
Wilson and Carr. Those were my guys.
Yeah.
Well, because for some reason I tried to make a trade for Cousins and it just fell through. Like it said denied reason, and then nothing. So I don't even know why.
Someone must have either whoever you offered it to must have denied it without a reason. I'm guessing.
No, because it was him.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know why.
A couple people must have vetoed it then, but
then it didn't say, like, that's what was weird to me. It just said reason and then blank.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's weird. Because I'm sure that's weird.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any trades.
I don't know.
I might have just swiped it away and been like, it doesn't matter. But
yeah, Cam played well.
He did.
And he played well against an okay defense. Not an amazing one, but okay one.
McCaffrey is being McCaffrey. And about 110 all-purpose yards, 7 receptions, 10 carries.
I mean, McCaffrey's good at McCaffrey.
Yeah. I was happy Washington won because that keeps the Niners in that playoff race. But
that's fair, yeah.
Like on the inside, I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be nice to see Cam win this. That home game, against his old coach, and
yeah.
I was rooting for him until I looked at it as the bigger picture. I'm like, oh wait, no, he needs to lose. Go football team.
I mean, I think the main part of the reason I'm pulling for the Panthers is it makes that division even more competitive, so it makes things harder for the Bucks. Because, with how they're playing, if they want to make it again, I think they need to earn it. And this season, they have not seemed to earn it like they did last year.
Oh. So. But how wild would it be, though, too, if Washington makes a push?
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, especially because, Dallas just hasn't looked the same since Dak went down. So, they could. I don't think they will, but they could. We've seen weirder things happen in their division.
Yep. Yeah, I just love the Panthers are. Yeah.
Yep. And the salary of the guy who replaced him and the guy who replaced the guy who replaced him. It's
all the money. Ridiculous.
Contracts are weird in the NFL.
Let's see. Ooh, we can slide into
that game.
To the first upset.
And that wasn't just an upset. That was like a full-on manhandling.
Shutting him out in the first half and then holding him to 13 in the second half.
Yeah.
That just tells me, if the Titans are playing a decent defense right now, they probably don't have the biggest chance.
Which is crazy because you say don't put it on the screen, you put it on the screen.
I'm just clicking. I'm going to put it on the screen. Think I pre-read these before I put them on the screen?
Click. Again, it's are the Texans really a decent defense? Because they've been just getting they haven't done that good of a job of holding teams like that. Granted, their offense also hasn't done as well, but still, it's They have not won a game since their opener against the Jags. And they played the Dolphins.
So I think their biggest catalyst is getting, of course, Taylor back.
Yeah.
And Taylor giving them kind of the time to rest as far as defense goes, because it seems like they weren't playing a lot of offense. So that defense is probably getting worn down. And let's be honest, without Derrick Henry, like the Titans really don't have a lot going on, because you gotta guard AJ Brown.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to stack the box, because you have AP with his Walker.
Funny story. They
Foreman.
cut AP.
Oh, that makes it even worse.
Yep. His 3-game stint is over.
Man, that's painful.
Yeah.
But like Foreman, I assumed was gonna go off a little bit better.
Yeah. I'm surprised
But-
him or McNichols hasn't gone off. That's what's surprising to me.
They had an even split between Foreman and Hillard, and it seems like they should have rid Hillard a little more, average of 5 yards a carry. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to be scared of them without Henry in the running game, and you get a little pressure on Tannehill. Make sure you take away AJ Brown. What's he gonna do? Apparently,
And
throw
that's
to
the thing.
Westbrook.
Get a little
But-
pressure, and he reverts back to Dolphins Jets era Tannehill.
At least he scored. Not
I
wrong.
mean, the Giants were doing okay out in the first half. The second half where they did awful. Like a fan in the cupboard.
Oh, I picked up one from buddy. Always saying like folded like a wet napkin.
Yeah.
Because good luck unfolding that. But yeah,
Yeah, it's. I'm really curious to see how things pan out now because of that.
yeah, in the AFC, because Titans look like clear cut number 1 seed.
Yeah, but especially with the way the Colts have been playing. It's,
Yeah, and I mean,
Colts,
the only thing I can give it is that enigma of being in the same division, and that you can throw the records out the window when you're playing within your division. You never know what's going to happen. Happened,
Yeah.
when the Niners split it up. Arizona still beat them twice. Like,
well, that's the
Yeah,
other thing.
it's-
So they don't. So the Titans and Colts have already played each other both games. So the Titans have Patriots, Jags, Steelers, Niners, Dolphins, and Texans again. The Colts have Bucks, Texans, Patriots, Cardinals, Raiders, Jags. So at best, I'd say their schedule's about even.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, honestly, out of all the teams they both have left, the hardest team on there, based on how they've been performing lately, I'd say it's the Patriots, really. Because the Bucks, like, yeah, they've won last night, but that wasn't exactly a dominant win for the first half.
no.
And they play the Bucks at home. So I
Yeah,
could
and
definitely see them overtake the Titans.
I can too. Like, the Colts have a good enough defense, and they have some momentum going now. Like, they can definitely overtake them.
Yeah. I think it'll depend on how they do in their next 2 games. That's really, I think, we'll get a measure if the Colts have started to make a run.
Oh yeah, that's gonna say a lot for a lot of people. Oh, look who it is!
Hey.
Oh, hey. You got tired of voice to text?
I did, and the wife and kiddo are watching TikTok, so I got a little break.
TikToks on the Instagrams.
Itchy interwebs.
I mean,
It's the new interwebs.
you're just in time for us to talk about the lovely Niners beating up on the world beater Jaguars.
On the kitties.
I mean, I like beating children too.
Like a true Utah.
Mhm. The mustache says it all, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a state sport, right?
I'd say the same about it, but I like the Jaguars' defense. I have like they're a good defense. Just they get worn down because the offense didn't get anything done.
Totally inept.
At
And
the
we
same,
beat them up.
Lawrence didn't throw
17-minute
picks.
drive.
Okay, that's a win.
Isn't
Yeah,
this the same Jags defense that, what, 2, 3, 4 years ago got them to an AFC championship minus a couple pieces?
I mean, is it though?
I mean, I
Even if they have the same players, it's clearly not the same defense.
no, it's
Most
really
players aren't
not.
there.
Yeah.
And even
Right.
then, I understand why you were worried. As a fan of a Midland, a great team as well. I get it. I do. This is a game that you shouldn't be worried about, but you go, oh shit. We should win. Maybe
Theoretically.
because my donkeys do the same thing. I mean, I'm just happy that on their off week they didn't lose. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the big thing. It's like, if they won, but if they really had to work for it, yeah, I'd be worried. Completely worried about the rest of the season. Like, yeah, we're going to miss the playoffs, be somewhere in the middle, whatever. But since they won it in such a dominant style and, like, were able to carry how they beat the Rams over, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I feel better.
yes and no. Okay, trouncing the Rams. 10 out of 10. That was beautiful. They did it. They dominated. But then following up with the Jags, it's a lot like when Alabama will go beat Georgia and then follow it up with like
Georgia,
South Carolina West Podunk
Yeah.
State.
I mean, I think the thing to me that's still one of those is, while Debo has been great in your last two games, what's up with your rest of your running backs, man? That's what's interesting to me. Like,
Injured.
how is Debo? Well, like, even the ones you guys have playing, why is Debo your leading rusher?
Because they forgot to break that daily bread and traded him away.
So my just observation has been they want to get Wilson going. He had 19 carries, but he was only averaging 2.6.
Yeah.
Normally he's a little more dynamic than that. He'll bust out a run here and there, like at least get that 10-yard, whatever. He got a few first downs. They worked in Sermon, which I did like that they put him in third down situations because they gave him some trust. Like before, they said he wasn't ready, which is like, yeah, he wasn't compared to, you know, our now starter, the other rookie. Right.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Just Debo made the most of his designed runs.
That he did.
That's all it came down to. It was only 8 carries out of 41 or so total.
Yeah.
Something.
Variety's nice.
But it is one of those, I think that's really one of those guys really has to start stringing together something consistent
Yeah.
for things to really start, like, improving for you guys.
And I mean, that's Elijah Mitchell. He was just out.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I
still, like-
assumed Wilson would carry it off, but
Yeah. Like,
He did.
that's the thing. It's like, at least one of the back. You guys have a talented stable of running backs. And while, yes, Mitchell is like the guy and he's like your best runner, the other guys should still be serviceable enough.
But
Like-
is he, though? I mean, has he stepped it up?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell this year just because they keep on getting injured. Like, I feel like you guys have had, like, at least a different stable by at least 2 guys every single game, it feels like.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, part of that is that consistency to stay healthy.
I mean,
We've
people
all
still
watched
worship Dalvin Cook, and that guy's never finished a season in his life.
True, but for the first 8 to 10 games, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're in week 11 and he's healthy, and y'all won by field goals, so things are looking up.
That's because of. No, I think it means the world's about to end.
Potato,
if
potato.
it hadn't already,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Ever since the Hadron Collider came online. But yeah,
it's definitely I think they needed to get Sermon in a little more because he's been fresher. Wilson's coming off an injury. We're getting Hasty back, which is a guy I think a lot of people forget about. He's kind of been behind Mitchell and kind of pushed off Sermon as well.
I just hope Hasty doesn't get back too fast.
He's questionable along with Mitchell this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the top three is kind of Mitchell, Hasty, Wilson. Sermon's on, man out.
So that does kind of actually circle back to, I think, a point I've made before. It's like one of those, if your team is consistently having a lot of injuries, like, one player is on the player. Multiple players can be a fluke. Multiple players over multiple seasons. That's when you start going like, okay, what is it that's causing that? Is it we're not scouting players well and like finding injury histories? Is there someone's strength and conditioning? Is it how we're practicing?
Is it the
really
turf?
This is the second year in a row where you guys have had a lot of injuries.
Can I just say I think it's the turf in San Fran, because collegiate games are played there, people go down. Pro games are played there, people go down.
You're on grass though.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, grass turf. Sorry, it's the way that it's kept up.
Yeah, no, I think you're thinking of.
I really haven't had a lot.
Yeah, no, you're thinking of what's the state?
New York has.
Yeah.
No. Well, yes, but we all don't have Jimmy Hoffa to blame. No, and I even look back to say like Pac-12 championships, where you've had players go down that normally wouldn't, playing there in Levi Stadium.
Yeah, I don't remember there being that many major injuries during championship.
Yeah, some of the injuries have been away games too.
Yeah.
Moster's first game was in Detroit. Like Mitchell, he got injured on an away game. It's just persistent because it's ribs, and the other one was his finger. Like that could have nothing to do with turf. He probably got hit by a helmet, didn't even notice. Some of it, I think, is definitely like they have guys who are injury prone. Mostert definitely. Wilson's been banked up a few times. Sermon, some of them are a little freak because Sermon took a knee to the helmet. I think that's what took him out for a couple games. Like some are just kind of freak accidents. Also, I think it is part of the coaching because they are coached to be very physical as far as running back goes. Their coach is like, you're gonna push forward for those 3 to 4 yards. I don't care if you get more, you're gonna get what you can get. 3 yards is fine. But you see them run; they run hard.
But they're not all built like Frank Gore.
Yeah.
No.
Who, by the way,
like Frank Gore.
Boxing D. Williams. I feel bad for D. Will. I do. Yeah. I just Frank Gore is a different animal.
Yep.
Completely.
Rather punch a rock slab than. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious because, like, it's if you guys might be able to get this year, but if you guys have next year also gets derailed injuries, that's when you start going like, okay, we need to fix this because.
Well, how many teams have you watched over the years that are just snake butt it feels? And it's how much of it's training staff, how much of it is team doctors. I mean, granted, you get those obvious screw ups, Tyrod Taylor in San Diego.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you just get this string of never-ending injuries that always seems to be in teams like Philadelphia, how much of that is the training staff?
Well, I mean, very rarely do you have like teams that are always injured. Philly's definitely like been one of those, and that one could be a combination of play style and also really environment, like playing outdoor in a cold weather stadium. Cause like, what's another team that's struggled with injuries a lot lately? The Bears play outside in cold weather stadiums.
I put that more to quitting on Matt Nagy, and I can't blame him.
This predates Nagy, so
I then put that to quitting on was it LaFleur or Lovie Smith or anyone before Mike Ditka?
But that's the thing is like though you tend to see that around cold weather teams that don't play in domes. Really, like I mean, Jets have that
And
a
what's
lot.
the
The Giants
Vikings
have that a lot.
excuse?
They're just terrible. They have
Okay.
actually legitimately had problems with conditioning. Like that's why there was 2 years in a row they lost multiple people to torn biceps. So they're like, okay, we retooled our conditioning program. That didn't fix, so they fired the guy, and they haven't had all the torn pecs anymore.
It's funny. I was reading an article saying the Cowboys are soft. I wish Sandman were here, but he said the reason why I had toured their training, their practice fields, and it's nothing but massage chairs and indulgences, and the Cowboys are soft. And I went,
It's like a spa.
okay.
Yeah,
It's like you get away from the Texas heat, you go to Napa Valley. They're pampered.
Yep.
I heard that one too.
Because don't get me wrong, kudos to Jerry for saying, hey guys, you work hard for me, you play for me, make me this much money, I'm going to take care of you. Cool.
yeah.
And I'm not, anybody knows me, I'm not one of those macho guys. I mean, come on, no. But at the same time, you got to be a hell of a lot more to be in the league and do what you do.
Yeah, that's fair. Though also, I mean, I feel like they haven't also had a huge issue with injuries the last couple of years.
They've continually had offensive line injuries over the last decade that have continually hampered them.
I feel like,
Outside of more than the Clapper, who was fired today.
no.
by the
I'm just
way.
going back to there was they were consistently one of the best offensive lines for a few years in a row, and then in the last couple of years, those guys have started getting hurt. That's where it's kind
By
of
a couple of years, you mean decade, because it's been that long, man. Look back.
No, they were a decade of solid offensive line who just now got derailed by injuries. That's what I'm saying. It's I remember they were a string of a few years in a row recently where they had the top offensive line. The guys one year I think they even all started all 16 games together. But the last couple of years, all those guys from that group have started getting hurt.
I think you're having a Mandela effect because it's been over the last decade that they've had continual injuries.
I have to look it up. It's where there's at least one of those seasons where they had.
I mean,
one of the few teams that they started all 16 games.
Because you look at guys like, say, Tyron Smith, who is, oh my God, good when he's healthy and out there, but is injured what feels like every other year at the very minimum. It's like David Bakhtiari up in Green Bay.
Well, that guy, I think, is because he's 36, 37?
Now.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, and it's once you get that first injury, especially close to your 30s, that's
They
basically
rolls.
it for an lineman.
Yeah.
You're never
Well,
the same.
Even then, you get guys like, who was he? Mike Ikaputi. I'm never going to say his name right. He played, he was left guard for,
I think.
Yeah,
what you think of.
the Niners.
Yeah.
He had that one injury, and after that, he just was never the same.
And that's unfortunate. That's common with O-line, especially all it takes is one major back or knee injury, and you might come back from it, but
lower body especially.
Yeah,
makes you really appreciate guys like Joe Thomas.
I mean, really, any O-line that lasts more than 8 solid years is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it a double-digit O-lineman, you're
in fact,
tired.
I think the fact that Hutchinson did get injured is the only reason he's in the Hall of Fame. Not that he's not talented, super talented.
Oh, yeah.
Not pulling away from that, but just his longevity is what got him there.
Yeah, it's really but what's funny, you could tell he'd get hurt. He just kept on going, and you're props to the guy because he didn't really start to decline and miss games until he got so bad he was constantly fighting back spasms.
Mm-hmm.
Which essentially back spasms, bulging discs, multiple surgeries. That's when he was all right, I can't really do this anymore.
No.
I mean, odds are good. In the next couple of years, the guy probably won't even be able to move his spine, honestly.
Yeah. At the same time, it's incredible what these offensive linemen put their body through. I look at Orlando Franklin. He was always a big, big, big dude. Year after he retired, I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
They shred. Yeah. Joe Thomas is the same, and so is Staley.
There was, I actually read an article about that. I can't remember. I don't remember what O line it was. He's one of the bigger guys, like more well known names.
Yeah.
And it was this article about how basically, what's common is when they first retire, they're like, oh, they're always hurting. It's like everything's a struggle. And the guy was like, yeah, I had this moment where I pretty much couldn't get up off the ground from playing with little kids. So I'm like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, because he'd retired, and so like the dude dropped like 145 pounds, something crazy, and then he's going through. But also, like he starts talking like, yeah, well, look at what you were doing in the season. Like, linemen, they eat something like it's like 10,000 calories a day, which is
maintain that weight.
Okay.
The human body is not made to operate that way and eat those kind of calories. No. So it's and like the guy started a group where it was like, okay, former O-linemen specifically, it's to help them like, okay, let's help you get healthy so you don't just your knees don't blow up on you.
Kind of a sidestep to that. I wonder if sumo wrestlers face the same, because you look at the way that they train their body and what they do.
Yeah,
very similar.
I'd be curious to see that. Well, especially because
I blame the replacements for that thought.
I watched that the other day. Yep.
It's such a damn good movie. I don't care who you are. Joey Falco, I'll draft him first round any day. I don't care.
We should get moving through this.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got sidetracked.
Sorry, guys.
Dolphins, Jets. Yeah,
Dolphins beat the Jets.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that track.
I saw it going that way as long as Tua started.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Flacco had a good game, though.
He did.
24 passes, 291, 2 TDs.
Speaking about out there with the walker.
So, as I was saying, start a broadcast, though. Poor Jets. They get Wilson back. And then lose Mike White to COVID.
Yep.
And Flacco, because he was close contact. So they had to elevate a guy. So you have Wilson, 4 TDs at a 27 QBR as your starter, and then some guy in your practice squad.
So for years, I loved reading John Clayton articles. The guy was always spot on with the NFL, insightful. But it's when he started propping Flacco up as one of the top 5 quarterbacks. He said, John, you're too old. You need out of the game.
Yeah.
And after watching the year and a half of the failed Denver experience, I just, I'm sorry, New York. I'm sorry.
That is a franchise that has just seemed cursed.
Yep. Ever since.
They're the new Cubs. That's the only way about it.
Yeah. Definitely.
People actually like the Cubs.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's true. He makes me think of like the future of Jimmy G, honestly.
No.
Who's good, makes the plays, but then you take him away from the system he fit in fairly decently and make him be that MVP or that guy who made $100 million somewhere else.
But Flacco actually won a Super Bowl.
On the back
Trent Dilfer doesn't mean you have to be a good quarterback to do that.
He had an elite defense.
Yeah.
So did Trent Dilfer.
Pretty damn good receiving core.
Hold on. So did Jimmy G.
I was actually going to say, so did Jimmy G. And notice what's happened since their defense has been hurt, not elite?
Yeah. Hadn't going well.
Then again, so did Peyton Manning that last year. That was just bad.
Yeah. This one of you are
Tom Brady.
Smartest man in the room.
We're seeing a pattern.
Well, the old idiom that defense wins championships, it still holds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're always going to get the aberration of that offense that just blows you away, but it doesn't always pay off. I mean, hell, you could go back, 37 years to the 83-84 Dolphins, where Marino set the record of 48 touchdowns, and they lost in the AFC Championship, and they said, that's all right. This kid will be back. Look at what he's doing.
Well, there's a reason why the top offense rarely wins the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Because generally speaking, the top offense rarely doesn't have one of the top defenses.
Yep.
And that's really what, like, I mean, honestly, last year I think was easily the best example of what happens when you have the top offense with a middling defense versus the top defense with a good offense.
Well, I even look at when the Seahawks won it against my Donkeys. Peyton Manning had won, broken all sorts of records, and really that true. Okay, this guy really truly belongs in the Hall of Fame. Just to start off the game with a safety, and it goes downhill from there. Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah, that was a rough one to watch.
Yeah, you're telling me.
That's fair. But yeah, that is. It really does come down to the defense. It really does, and I mean, and it's also if you look at the teams that are really we thought were top teams. It's their defenses have either not been showing up, so they've been struggling.
Bills.
Or they've been Bills, Rams is another good one.
I'll even throw in the Browns. They have actual playmakers in all three levels on defense, and they've been falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas the teams that have had like actual solid defenses with okay offenses are doing well now, especially as they're clicking, like the Patriots, like the.
But are you going to trust the Titans to actually win? I mean, Vrabel's a hell of a defensive coach, but I don't see him getting past maybe the first round of the playoffs. And I mean, maybe
if
without, say, Derrick Henry.
Oh, they had Henry. I think they could. But...
different game, but
yeah,
if we're talking about now he has an okay offense, because Henry actually changes that to a good offense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it depends because as we've also seen, like it comes down to matchups. It's their defense has been getting pressure. Surprisingly well in some games. It's surprising some of the games where they've really been blowing people up. So, and also, like honestly, the playoffs especially really do come down to matchups. I mean, just ask the Saints.
You mean the Saints versus any ref they find? If you ask,
no, I mean the Saints versus the Vikings, the playoffs.
I know. I just have some salty Saints friends.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. In their defense, the Ram loss. Yeah, that. I understand why they'd be salty about that one.
Hey, at the same time, there was a missed call on the Saints. But regardless.
Yes, but it's just some teams just either it's one coach has the other coach figured out, one they have the right scheme. It's so the Titans still, if they get favorable matchups, could do well in the playoffs. I'm not confident at this point, but honestly, like all year, if you really think about it. Every 2 weeks, it seems the top teams change because the teams that were dominating all of a sudden get blown up. You're like, oh, okay, never mind.
You mean like Denver?
Yep. I mean, we could literally list multiple examples right now.
I know. I just like dumping on them boys after my Donkeys did.
And I mean, even speaking of the defenses, and the Saints-Eagles game.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense made some plays and they lit it up.
Yeah.
At the same time, after watching the Hinkie experiment in Denver, after seeing Taysom Hill beat Taysom Hill, I grant that any three of us could go out there and say, I'm a Saints quarterback and have a better chance of winning. Just give me a Madden controller. Get out of my way. I got this. We're going all, deep. Let's go with this. It doesn't really matter because they do not have the quarterback to do it. And without Kamara, they don't have the running game to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the pit of despair. The bog of eternal stench.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily just their quarterback, though.
Yeah, the defense has holes, and
they've lost.
Flubber.
They've lost
Who's their receiver? Who's their star receiver right now?
Injured. I mean, sorry, Michael Thomas.
Yeah. Okay, so then, and who's their tight end? Who even
Troutman.
is their tight end?
Adam Troutman.
Yeah.
They have a tight end?
So, and I think that it's not just...
year.
Yeah, it's not just missing Breeze. It's also you're missing Breeze, Kamara, Thomas, and their tight end.
But that goes to the idiom of, yes, defense wins championships,
Yeah.
but you need the the
Serviceable
horsepower
offense.
to get there.
You need a manageable offense. Either you need
And they don't.
offense.
So throwing the Saints in this argument is kind of null and void right now because, let's be honest, their offense is just null and void right now.
You got to flip flop that. The Philadelphia defense has showed up. 2 interceptions,
you
one
know,
of back for 6 points.
The Eagles defense.
Again, we're talking about Hinkie, who is not a serviceable quarterback. No, and I get what you're saying, but yes, the Eagles defense showed up. The Saints defense, not that great. They don't have the offensive horsepower to get there.
Yeah, they struggle against the mobile quarterback too. So
yeah,
that was not going in their favor.
Kind of hurt.
And that's the thing is the Eagles are, if they don't get the run game, they get derailed because.
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently, the only time they get the passing game going is when I have Smith on my bench. I put him in this week. Guess what he did? Like 8 points.
Yeah, I think I had him in flex somewhere, but I was forced to play Hurts in a league because Jackson went down with illness. So last minute switch. I'm like, well, what happens, and what happens was 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had a hell of a game.
Same time, Huntley engineered his first game-winning drive.
Yeah, that was nice. Although he did struggle like a lot. Like, he was great in the preseason. We're like, it's preseason. Gotta have real expectations. But I was still happy to see him do that.
Well, that's because that team is set up to follow Jackson.
Yep.
Love Huntley, he's not Jackson.
Yeah, but it's if they had to pick someone to be his backup, they landed a good fit for that.
You're absolutely right.
Speaking of not good fits, Bengals Raiders.
You know, I saw a picture of good old Derek Carr, and I'm looking at him and thinking, he just looks like Marv from the Wet Bandit gang. Not as desperate too right now.
Yeah, I feel a little bad for him, man.
Yeah. Honestly, I felt bad for him for a while. Like, the Carr family, haven't they suffered enough at this point? Don't they deserve something going their way?
I mean,
it was.
Is it wrong to say the high point is when Derek Carr had his first win of the first season against the Cowboys and it all went downhill from there?
I mean, no, I don't think it is. It's the dude is just... Yeah, I don't know how you can't feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
He's a good quarterback, just stuck in an organization that right now is just, they're a little bit of a mess. Like they had it Gruden screwed up, and it's like it just steamrolled from there. Everyone's going to prison.
It's like every time. It's not even just now. It's every time things start to get he's going to have a team around him. It just implodes, and the wheels come off.
At the same time, we're talking about the same team that gave Richie Incognito a second chance there.
I mean, yes. I'm not saying it's it's undeserved, but
because the Raiders or whatever Al Berman BS it is.
Though I will say though, I was surprised at how well they were able to shut down the Bengals passing attack.
Yeah,
relatively speaking.
I'm not.
But you take Chase out of the game, and Burrows is middling at best right now.
Except for they still have. You have Higgins and Boyd, who are still really good receivers.
I get that, but he's on that same wavelength as Chase. That's his go-to. That's his starter.
But here's
Chase
the thing, though.
Going, then they're not going.
When Chase was out, Boyd was averaging like 80, 90 yards a game. And I think Higgins was also averaging close to that.
Boyd's a very, very solid.
I understand there's a rapport, but it's still one of those.
And Usma.
Even without Chase, they were still doing really well in the passing game up until the last couple games.
Okay, you're going to think I'm crazy.
They just didn't need to.
Okay, you're going to think I'm crazy.
Alone.
Yeah.
But as a parent, when my daughter would lose her favorite stuffed animal, and she goes to sleep just fine without that favorite stuffed animal, it'd be great for 2 or 3 games, 2 or 3 days, until she says, I really want that. And that's Jamar Chase to Joe Burrows.
No, I get that. It's still surprising that they were doing so well for so much of the season, not relying on Chase. Whereas now it's like Well, yes, like they ran the ball well, so they didn't necessarily need him going crazy. It's his stats still were kind of, I mean, 20 for 29, like he had good actually, but it's 148 with 5-yard average.
Yeah,
that's
it was a lot of
serviceable.
underneath,
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of dink
which
and
is
dunk.
all they needed.
Yeah, that's fair. It's
Yeah.
still one of those. I was kind of surprised by that still, especially because
Yeah.
it seemed like it was a close game for a bit.
With-
Well, that's because
Yeah.
the Raiders' best part of their defense is their secondary.
That's fair, I guess.
I mean, and I'm not setting the bar high on that one, but that is their star on defense. I mean, their front seven had the last 5 years have not been the guys to get pressure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so they have a
Seems
lot
they
of
don't have
speed
the
on their
worst
secondary.
front
Yeah. So
But
you're going to go
it-
dink and dunk and expose those holes.
And I mean, that's all you needed to do. Joe Mixon's
Yeah.
averaging 4 yards carry.
Yeah. Again, front
All you have to
seven
do
is
is
not there.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what they did.
So here's a question for you guys: would you rather have a strong front seven or a Legion of Boom type situation?
Front seven.
Normally, I'd say front seven. The only reason why I'd say Legion Boom right now is with the proliferation of passers. It's a lot easier to shut down. If you can shut down a really great passing attack, you don't need all stars to load the box.
No, you don't. But at the same time, you make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable, and he's not going to put up 5,000 yards and 55 touchdowns.
But also think about this. If you are able to totally shut down Hill and Kelsey, you don't need an amazing front seven to still be able to get pressure in that case. Because that's where you start getting coverage sacks. Where
hmm
if there's no one open, and eventually you're going to get a holding penalty or something. So that's why, with the way offenses are right now, that's why I would lean towards the better secondary. In that a really awesome secondary with the receivers nowadays can mask a better front seven.
So it makes you really wonder what the hell's wrong with the Rams, because they have all pro talent in all three levels.
Or the freaking Buccaneers.
Yeah.
They still have a great front seven,
Uh,
but their secondary is so decimated.
I'm going to call that one to ego for the most part, because
Yeah. They really haven't been getting home with the pressure.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
they
really
did
haven't.
with the Giants, but that was the Giants,
Mm-hmm.
which that's
Yeah.
our last game, but we're not there yet.
no.
I don't know. I vote the other way just because that front seven can alleviate this back end, a lot easier with pressure. Kind of like your point, but also you're not going to play those Patrick Mahomes every game. You're going to play a lot
No.
of first teams like your Colts and even Niners, and you got to be able to stop the run, because if you can stop the run, then they're going to be looking to throw it, and that's when you can get those sacks.
But I mean, also as someone who has had their team in that situation where they had a great elite front seven, and
You guys never had an offense to get it done, though.
Well, no. It's like the defense would still give up third downs
Yeah.
because and especially against good teams. Because here's the other thing: is
That's
you
a big
might
one.
have an elite front seven, which is great against middling teams and lower. But once you start facing those elite teams, who they either can have an O-line who can handle that front seven, or they can scheme around it. What starts happening is your secondary starts getting carved up.
So I guess the bigger question is, would you rather have an elite cornerback or an elite safety?
Now that is a tough one to me, because
That is.
Sorry, guys. I'm just sitting here pondering as we're talking.
Well, we can ponder on that one while we get to an elite quarterback with the Chiefs Cowboys. The
And
one I'm sure you were waiting to reach.
alleged elite defense.
Yeah, that elite defense playing that elite offense.
What is up with the
No.
Cowboys, man?
Which you just saying,
good answer.
Mahomes didn't have a stellar game either, though. He threw
Yeah.
for 260, which is great, but he threw an interception, no touchdowns.
all I know is if a cowboy gets kicked by a horse, like say a bronco, he's going to be a little staggering for the next little bit.
Allegedly elite.
This man gets it. Allegedly elite. Allegedly.
Yeah. I was really
And-
surprised when I saw that score.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
You can argue it's still fairly close, 10 points, given
Yeah.
how many points each team can actually put on the board. Probably the difference maker was getting Edwards-Helaire back.
Mhm.
So he
Yeah.
averaged 5.2 yards. Like, they had an actual running game, even with only giving him 12 carries.
Yeah.
So
Well-
that opened up, I think, the passing attack for him.
at the same time, any Mike McCarthy offense is going to follow a script. If they don't follow that script, they're not going to win. The
Yeah.
Cowboys, if they follow that script, beautiful.
What do you mean? Kellen Moore's an offensive genius.
Right. So I would give them the
So
only
is Andy Reid.
piece I could give them is you lost. So you lost CD Lamb during the game.
Yep.
He's your number one. Cooper didn't even make it to the
Mhm.
game, so you lost your 1-2. You're relying on Gallup and Schultz. So Schultz is solid.
Mm.
Gallup has
is-
moments.
He exactly. I'm like, he has moments.
He had that 200-yard game a few years back.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
means like, oh, he's going to be something, but then he hasn't really
No.
produced since. So and also to kind of feed a little fantasy there too is like, if you don't pick up Schultz, because they don't know if Lamb or Cooper are going to be back this week. So you need tight
And
end.
guess
Yeah.
who's not starting Dak Prescott again until we know they're back? This guy.
That is
He had
a
a
rough start. if it
QBR of
doesn't guy.
10.
I would have eaten my
10.
hat if I had known I needed to start Cousins over Prescott with the soft Kansas City defense.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, they really just had to watch Gallup and Schultz. You don't really have to worry about the running game because they're not committed to it.
So
Like, how is he have Zeke and Pollard? You're like, I guess it's the opposite of what the Vikings do.
I mean, this kind of became one of those moments of a middling offense struggling against a middling defense, and then a better offense beating a middling defense. And the Cowboys have not had that middling defense until the last few weeks. And I can't put my finger on what's wrong with them, what's off with them, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the pass rush isn't there because if Mahomes had those yards, the pass rush probably didn't get there as often as it should have. Their secondary is pretty good,
Yeah.
depending on where they put Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, because he had 2 sacks, and I'm sure he was their pass rush. But
Yeah.
then you put him back in the linebacker spot, then you have some safety there, and their secondary is
Yep.
pretty decent.
But also, at the same
Yeah,
time,
well,
so
had
I was
that
just
guard.
looking at this. So the Cowboys, their defense allowed 29 points to the Bucks, 29 points to the Patriots, and then 28 points to the Panthers. And then the rest of the times, it's like, okay, they did allowed 17 by the Chargers. That was week 2 when the Chargers were still kind of struggling.
They should have had more too. Let's be honest.
Like they allowed
Sorry
the
to
Eagles to get
shut themselves
21.
up for a
They
lot.
held the Eagles, Giants, Vikings, and Broncos to all 21 or less. So you look at it as like the actual solid to really good offense they went against. They were giving up 30 or more points almost.
Yep.
So maybe it's that whole a couple years ago with the Patriots where their historic defense until they started playing good teams.
Yep. So,
Might be.
not to be a wet blanket on a party fire, but much like last week, I wasn't planning on this. My phone's at 1% at the moment.
It's all right.
Sometimes.
It's all right. You do you, boo. We know how it is,
Yeah. Life is a family, man.
right?
Yeah. But
It's all the TikToks.
I mean,
Not on my phone.
I expected more out of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Also,
did
with the
too.
top receiving weapons not being there, like, okay, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But
And
it's been 20 years of saying, I've expected more of the Cowboys.
that's
Even
true.
from the Drew Bledsoe years, I expected more of the Cowboys.
That's more than fair.
And I mean, also the Chiefs got back Frank Clark, which seems like it
Mhm.
more of the pass rush with Chris Jones too. So
Even just as a distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like that, the Chiefs are leading their division.
All these my donkeys can't lose if they don't play.
I mean, yeah, but also you guys are only like 2 games behind, so
We're not going to catch up. It's not going to happen.
I mean, probably not. But there's still that chance.
What? Yeah.
At the same time, the Vikings won with the field goal, so
Yeah.
I don't
Stranger
know.
things.
Stranger Things.
Speaking of strange things, the Cardinals
Boy, lighting
2-1 with Colt freaking McCoy.
You mean the guy that was a Heisman front runner until he got derailed?
the guy
Basically
who was number one
derailed
pick
his entire NFL career.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
finds him. Sadly enough,
at the same time, the guy has had game. He just never had the right situation. Would always get derailed by injury. And I'm not sitting here saying Colt McCoy is the second coming. No, he's not. But he's not completely inept either.
Yeah.
You know, he's not
Good.
T-Jax.
I mean, I think you do a big disservice to all people who are called inept by comparing him to T-Jack.
Not Jamarcus Russell? Oh,
Okay.
no, that just felt dirty coming out.
No one is that
Never
bad.
mind. He's not Trevor Simeon.
I mean, there you go. But also, like, they're getting the running game going, which is, to me, uncharacteristic of Mr. Superstar coach. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, since they traded for Hopkins, running hasn't been their priority.
oh, even before that, like, the running game was non-existent because he relied so heavily on this aerial assault offense he really wanted to pull from college.
Given by
Like-
Joe Rosen?
Yeah. Well, he never had
Never said
Rosen.
he did it well. He just said that's what he relied on.
Rosen was... Oh, there he goes. He did. He done died.
Dead.
He can join back when he wants, but Rosen was from the previous head coach who only had 1 year.
Yeah.
Then immediately he drafted Murray, and it's been all an aerial assault.
That reminds me. He saw some playing time this weekend, I think.
Who?
Yeah, for the Falcons. Because Ryan got hurt. So Josh Rosen saw the field. this
Oh, that's
weekend.
right. I think he threw a pick.
Yes, it was not. He did
Saw that.
not do well.
I think it pulled Ryan back into the game,
Yep.
which is ridiculous.
But
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
sorry to throw that.
Alright, it's all good. Connor's doing well.
Hmm.
Even without Hopkins, they just dump it to Ertz.
Yeah.
AJ Green was back, probably eating up coverage. So I mean, they're serviceable, and the Seahawks are struggling really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, and also like they've, I think, been happy because they had a fairly nice stretch right there. It's against the Niners, Panthers, and Seahawks, which are all teams that are like at 500 or lower. So that's a good stretch of teams to face if you're without some key players.
Yeah.
And
At
then
that point, it's just
they still have the Bears. So again, they do have the Colts and the Cowboys in the last 3 games, so that's going to be rough for them, I think.
yeah, the Colts will be a challenge for them. I mean, if the Cowboys get back Lamb and Cooper, I think that'll be a real challenge for them.
Which is possible because it's the second to last game too. So
Yeah, because looking at Seattle, it was Wilson had 26 attempts, and you can tell the entire offense was going through Wilson because the run game just never happened. Lockett had a great game, but yeah, I mean, no touchdowns outside of a short run from DJ Dallas. It looks like.
Yeah,
So
the Seahawks are definitely
they're hurting.
they are definitely hurting. I mean, honestly, their season has reminded me a lot of what the Niners went through last year, with just everyone and their mother was injured.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that, but it's really just Carson and Wilson.
Yeah, but that's essentially their team.
I mean,
two of the
I
four
agree.
guys on
Wilson is their
right?
team. Yeah, I agree that Wilson's their team. Like they're similar to the Packers in that way, where they'll live and die by that quarterback.
Yeah. It's true.
And speaking of living, dying by your quarterback, the Steelers Chargers game. Chargers almost handed that game over in Chargers fashion.
Well, I mean, that's the Chargers. And I don't know how the Steelers are able to do it every year. I don't know how they're always able to put up points.
Let's see.
It defies all reason at this point.
But they put up 27 in the fourth quarter.
How? Are they still able to do that?
I mean, that Herbert interception definitely helped. But
still, though, like, how?
Yeah. No,
how is Big Ben able still to do this?
I mean, when you have two receivers here, one went for 100 and the other one almost, with Claypool doing 93 yards, Deontay Johnson doing 101.
Yeah.
They have an amazing receiving core. Najee Harris has been really good. He didn't really have a stellar game, but
yeah. But also, the
yeah,
game script is definitely more of a passing one anyway, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
It still blows my mind, though. It just...
it blows my mind that like the Chargers almost let this one go, which I will say was
that
very
just blows my
entertaining.
mind. Yeah, because that's the Chargers.
It was extremely entertaining watching a Chargers fan watch this game. That's where I got my joy. I watched my mother-in-law watch this game, and just watching her break down in the fourth quarter.
And that's the other thing. It's like, offensively, the Chargers were just on fire. Like, yeah, they had a couple sacks and interception, but freaking like Eckler had a game. Herbert had 90 yards on the ground.
Yep.
And then they had Allen and Williams both around 100 yards.
They all did great. Like,
yeah,
the offense was hitting it up, and then the Steelers just weaseled their way back into the game and gave themselves a chance.
Again, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
they really are like they're one of those teams. Like every time you're ready, like all right, it's over for them. They're done. All of a sudden,
you can't count them out. Even with that massive lead in the fourth quarter, like I think that's probably what it was. Like they probably was like, well, we got this, and then Big Ben put together a couple big drives, and it's like, do you?
Crazy.
And they panicked.
The Chargers.
Yeah. And then on the cue of panic, that describes the Giants.
Yeah. I'll give them props for keeping it close as long as they did.
Yep.
I was really surprised. I was like, that's the halftime score? Okay.
like,
I think I turned it on when it was, like going into halftime. I was like, hey, 10-17. That's manageable.
They got away from the run, which I think was a killer for them.
Yeah.
Because even though they didn't have stellar numbers, like their average was pretty good. 4.2 from Barkley, 5 from Booker. And I don't know if they were just afraid to run it, but like getting away from the run game just made it a lot harder on Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, they're looking at it. So after the first drive, pass, punt. Gets that after interception. So then the next one, they had a run for 16. Direct stop, pass incomplete, pass.
Mm-hmm.
Punt. So, yeah. And then they had pass, fumble. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I understand why they let go.
Pass, run, pass. Yeah. Yeah, basically after that first drive, they were just like trying to sling it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, in their defense, though, the Bucs are one of the better run defenses, so that's fair. But yeah,
some of their losses have been those teams that weren't afraid to run it against them. And when you're averaging those many yards, like, why not?
Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, that's what happened to the Falcons when they got 28-3. Is they were averaging like 8-point yards, and they're like, let's just start passing. See what happens.
I think part of that was also putting the game in your MVP's hands.
Yeah.
And that just being a bad idea. But
yeah.
I mean, I understand the firing of Garrett because a lot of those passes that I was watching, it was bubble screens, wide receiver screen, short throws over the middle, like stuff that you
Yeah.
can predict in your sleep. Very vanilla, like
Very Jason Garrett.
yeah.
Yeah.
Garrett
I mean,
and Moore are just
I-
very plain Jane to me.
but they need to move on from Jones because that's like I saw when I read a comment where it was a valid point is he hasn't improved. He really hasn't.
Yeah, the only argument I can make is that has he gotten the chance to improve?
I think he's
'Cause-
had like obviously he's going to have struggles, but it really is one of those. He's even when he's had the run game, he still just hasn't shown as much improvement as you'd expect at this point in his career. You should at least expect him to make bet. Because it's not about like yes, he's going to struggle. It's he should be better at decision making, and he's still
that's fair. That's
he
fair.
still looks like a rookie. Really, is what it gets down to.
Yeah.
And that's I think is not a good sign for him.
I don't know. I think we'll see. I'm sure the Giants, I'd say probably within the next 2 years, will probably get another quarterback.
Yeah.
It'd be more the same, and Jones will probably leave, and then you can actually see what he's made of. But yeah, that was a rough game for the Giants, and now's the time of Freddie Kitchens.
So something though that is interesting. I was thinking about. It's like the Buccaneers. We've been talking about how they haven't felt like the team. So I just actually looking and I noticed something. So they've dropped 2 of the last 3 against Saints and Washington, and for the first step, that was so close to you think against the Giants.
Yep.
So their 3 losses have all come out on the road. They play the Colts on the road. I think that's going to be a pretty telling game for them. Because if they can't win a road game against the Colts, that's not a good sign.
That was where I heard it over the radio or through an NFL network shows probably about a week or so ago after they lost again on the road that the Bucs, they're not a travel team and that they need that number 1 seat so that they can get home field advantage. Like that's their best chance of going to another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Which
is crazy because they won their Super Bowl on the road last year.
Yeah. But for some reason this season they can't win on the road.
Yeah. Well, like even in their other 2 road games was a close victory over the Patriots early on, and a
Cowboys,
closer game. Oh no, that was a home game.
Oh.
So week 4 they beat the Patriots on the road by 2 points, and then week 6 they beat the Eagles on the road, but it was still that was where the Eagles started staging that comeback, and they only lost by 6 points.
Yep.
So you're right, they really haven't looked like. But I mean, that's also the other part is now that I'm looking, the only really solid team they played at home was the Cowboys, and that was a close one.
That was close.
They beat up the Falcons, they beat up the Dolphins, they beat up the Bears, and then they beat up the Giants. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how they do with the rest of their schedule because they're at the Colts, they host the Bills, they host the Saints, they're at the Panthers, and they host the Panthers. You have the Jets and the Falcons scattered in there, but I still think that they should win their division. But it really depends on, I think, the Colts and Bills game especially. That's going to be... They at the very least have to win one of those 2, I think.
Those are going to be, can they make it through the playoff games?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think, fair.
And then using that to move into next week. 3 games thanks to Thanksgiving. And Lions and Bears, which is probably going to be a good game for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. At least it's the early morning game. I'm too busy cooking to pay attention.
True. And I mean, to go into that too, the Bears, their big story is Nagy. There was rumors already that this is going to be Nagy's last game. He's going to get let go after this, and he said no. I haven't heard anything like that. I've talked to him, but I don't know. He's got to be on the hot seat.
I don't see how he's going to last past the season. I don't.
I
Like,
don't even.
not only have they struggle, but they've just been bad this year in so many aspects. And the Lions
Yeah.
are the Lions.
Yep.
It's
Like, they might have Goff back. I think is their
this
biggest headline.
feels like it's the Lions' win of the year. This feels like
This is
they
their
have-
chance.
Yeah, it's the
home
Reeling
game
Bears
against the
at
Bears.
home. And
Probably
it's
against
Thanksgiving.
Dalton.
Yeah.
They invented the Thanksgiving game. Like, this might be their win.
Yeah. Which, if they have to win one game a year, why not let it be Thanksgiving?
Let them eat that turkey.
I
Raiders, Cowboys.
mean, it should be the Cowboys, but
This one I think is going to be closer than most people might expect, and I think it comes down to is CeeDee Lamb and is Cooper playing.
even without that, I still could see them winning. It just depends if the Cowboys can get a run game going.
I wouldn't even trust it to the run game because they don't commit to it.
Well,
I can
that's
see
what I
them
mean,
do
like-
it if Schultz gets open and Gallup, then yeah.
Well, and if the run game can get going, I think that will open up things for them. It'll do enough that even if they don't have Lamb or Cooper or whoever, I could see them still winning if they can. The run game is doing well enough that it at least makes it so they don't have to like, oh, we'll just like double team both the guys, and what are you going to do?
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would, of course, give the edge to the Cowboys because the Raiders are just completely in. They're a mess. Like, they shouldn't be. Their talent is still there, but they're just a mess right now.
Oh yeah.
So even though the Cowboys feel very plain to me, I would take them.
Same. Speaking of teams that are messes, Bills and Saints.
Oh
Both of
yeah,
them messes for different reasons.
yeah. That should be a fun game to watch. I would hope to see that the Bills bounce back as far as their defense goes,
Yeah,
and that they can get the offense moving.
I mean,
But
really, they should be able to bounce back in both phases against Saints, but
it's weird because to me the Bills, right now their strength is the defense, and the offense is just so wishy-washy. Like they don't have a running game. At least they're not committing to the running game. As soon as they're down by 2 scores, it's non-existent. And then you just cover Diggs and let them throw underneath Knox. Like they're not going to win that way.
no, I agree. It really depends if the Bills show up. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Nothing against the Saints. It's just do the Bills show up and do what they have the talent to do.
Yeah, that's how I
I
feel.
don't know. I honestly don't know, especially after the last few games. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, to me, that's almost a toss-up game. I really could see that game going either way, and I don't have a good beat on that.
Yeah, I feel like the Saints are more consistent. I think they get a bit of an edge with Kamara, but their running game isn't out the door with Ingram. Like it's still really good with Ingram.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would. If the Bills show up, the Bills, if they're just mentally not, just whatever they got going on, that ailed them in the last game. If it's there, like of course Saints, I think they're going to win because they have a run game. Simeon can dink and dunk, and their defense, I think, can just hold on.
yeah. Well, and then
But if the Bills' defense isn't there, I don't think they got it.
and they need to show up because they're coming into a gauntlet on the back half of their schedule. So, yeah.
Steelers Bengals at Cincinnati.
I don't know, man. That
I'm in slight favor of the Bengals. Mostly because they're at home and they have the talent on offense to just put enough points to basically pull kind of what the Chargers did and just kind of hold on. But
yeah,
the big question mark is going to be on that defense.
yeah. Well, and it's like on paper, it really is one of those like, how are the Bengals not leading their division right now? They beat the Steelers on the road. They beat the Ravens on the road, but then they got beat up by the Browns at home.
Trounced by the Jets.
Yeah, it's
And I think a big thing is going to be if the Steelers can stop the run.
yeah.
If they stop the run, I think they're in it, and they could probably win.
Yeah, which I mean, the
'Cause-
Steelers again, like, what's up with that
Can't get
team?
them out.
I mean, remember, this is the team that tied with the Lions 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah, which is so weird.
yeah, it's, that would also to me like I would lean Bengals just because it's at home, but honestly,
Yeah.
in their division, they've only won road games. They've lost their home games. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it's you take the Bengals, but you wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers pull it off a win, or if they even
Another
just
tie.
close. Or they blew it. Like,
Man, if we
I wouldn't be surprised.
last time, I'm curious. So multiple ties in a season. I'm just curious because how funny would that be if they tie the Bengals?
That would be pretty funny.
It's not loaded. Whatever. But okay, so I mean, Panthers, Dolphins. I guess Dolphins, but maybe Panthers.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I would lean Panthers. Wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins win, similar to the other game.
Yeah,
Just given McCaffrey's back, Newton can run the offense,
yeah.
and their defense is pretty good. Like, they're not something to brush off, but
But then again, the Dolphins' defense
they're pretty good
shut
too.
down the Ravens. That's about it. But it's I would lean Panthers just because while the Dolphins beat the Ravens, the other two wins recently were the Texans and Jets, and then they lost like 6 straight. But it's also they have Tua back. They're starting to get other guys back. So and it's home.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll throw a little hope to some, like, if anybody's out there watching, like, they're a Dolphin fan, like, I can definitely see them win because they beat the Ravens by stopping the run. You're going to beat the Panthers by stopping the run. You got to keep McCaffrey basically in where his touches. They're all going to come from the passing game. And they held him that way, at least as far as the Ravens. They could probably do the same against the Panthers. And if they get pressure on Cam, like they did on Jackson, and they contained him really well. So, like, I feel like it definitely could go either way. And then, yeah, Tua's a difference maker
Gotta get that light.
for that
Okay,
team.
sorry, I have a light flickering.
You're good. I thought.
Yeah. Call our HOA or builder about that. But yeah, no, I agree. But honestly, I think of this season more than anyone, it really has felt like any team could lose to any team.
There's a lot of teams that are at 500 or
Yeah.
in that area. So
But not only that, we've also seen a lot of like really strong, like 7-8 win teams lose to like teams with 2 or 3 wins.
1 in 6, yeah.
Yeah, or we've seen like like people struggle with the really like, oh, this should be an easy win. It's been a long time since it felt like there was this much parity across the entire NFL, really.
The term "any given Sunday" has been very true this season.
Oh yeah, it really has. That's why it's like, yeah. Even so, I could see the Giants beating the Eagles. I don't
Freddie
think they will.
Kitchen cooking up the offense.
I think the Eagles will run over them, but
I think so too. That's the same thing though. Like they need to stop the run, which even it's not even from the running backs. It's containing Hurts. If they can contain Hurts,
yeah,
they got a shot. And the Giants' defense wasn't horrible, like playing against the Bucs. So like, it's gonna probably be decided within the second half. and the adjustments they can make.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd give the edge to the Eagles. They're rolling pretty well.
I agree.
And then, I want to see
That-
some.
That one looks like
What we got?
I think could be
Eagle.
interesting. It's Titans Patriots.
Yeah, that one definitely going to be interesting because both two very solid defenses playing each other.
And not only that, it's like
And,
both of them need the win to maintain their lead.
Yep.
That's the other, I think, big factor there.
I mean, I'd like to see the Titans win over the Patriots.
So what's funny is normally I would agree with you. The only reason why it's like this is probably the only time you'll ever hear me say this is I think it'd be hilarious to see the Patriots win a Super Bowl and the Bucks miss it. Just to basically all the people saying like, oh, clearly Belichick needs Tom Brady. It's like, or maybe last year was just a fluke and Brady had a really good team. That's the only time you'll ever hear me say that, though, because I think they burn in hell.
Totally. I think Belichick deserves a lot more credit.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothers me is everyone's giving Mac Jones a lot of credit, and it's like he's doing what he's asked to do. It's just enough.
He's doing exactly what he did at Bama. It's just be serviceable with a great defense and offensive players around you.
Yeah, and a good game plan.
Yep.
But no, I'd like to see Vrabel also get that win, but
yeah,
I don't know. Unless the offense can get going, I don't see the Titans winning, and I think that's the edge the Patriots have on them.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was going.
I feel like that is actually. Hang on. I feel. Let's see. Okay, so apparently Belichick has. This was from 2020. Was right around 500 winning record against his assistants, which is kind of former assistants, former players, which is kind of surprising. Like he's actually had a losing record in January of last year, but he had a winning record in the postseason. So that's actually interesting to me because I actually thought he had a winning record against his guys. Like I thought he was like Saban where he just dominated them, but apparently not.
Yeah, even the odds and spreads are a little mixed as well. Because I'm seeing ones like Titans are 5.5 point, 5.5 point underdogs. So never mind, they're all actually in the Patriots' favor.
Which that makes sense to me. It's in Foxborough. The Patriots, the Titans don't have Henry. I get that.
Yeah,
and that's why I would lean the same way. I would lean Patriots in that game.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'd like to see the Titans win, but in reality, I feel like the Patriots bring pull it off.
Yeah.
Ooh, Falcons, Jags.
Jags flip a coin. I don't know. Doesn't even matter at the front of those teams.
I'd say for fantasy outlook, though, I'm probably going to play Robinson. Yeah. Marvin Jones probably isn't looking too bad right now.
Yeah, as much as I would like to think Patterson's going to be healthy and have a bounce back game, I don't think he will. So,
and I mean, that's also that helps. In one part of my mind, okay, that kind of helps Pitts because he should get more looks, more targets. But on the other half, that he has no one to to take that pressure away from him. He needs
Patterson, or else he's the guy, and they're just going to just triple team him. What else are they going to do? Yeah. If that one feels like it should just be Jags at this point, but again,
it can go either way. Too.
It could, but it's not so much I don't know. That's it's
the playmaker for Atlanta aren't there. Yeah, that's too. I lean Jags too because they have more playmakers that are healthy as opposed to the Falcons. But
it's just really just one of those games, just Throw a dart.
What happens, happens.
This is, I think, the other one of the big matchups.
Good game.
Uh,
Bucks, Colts.
yeah. If the Colts can run on that Bucks defense, I think it's game over.
Yeah, because they're going to commit to the run.
Yeah.
And if they
For good
show,
reason.
yeah, definitely, you got an all-star like Taylor, and I think he's going to do perfectly well. Like,
Yeah.
at least I wouldn't be surprised if he gets, probably anywhere between 17 and 20 carries for 100 plus yards,
Yeah.
and at least a touchdown. That's feels very serviceable in this game for him. But if they can stop him and make Wentz try and beat him over the top,
Yeah.
anyone's game.
Well, and that's why it's going to be interesting. The Colts are really, their offense is the kind that's built to beat the Bucks, where it's okay, run, keep their high-powered offense off the field.
Yep.
While still having like an offense that is explosive and will wear you down, coupled with a pretty good defense. And the other thing is also, it's the Colts offense is really built to counteract the strength of the Bucks defense, which is the getting to the quarterback, where you don't need them to worry about that if you're just running the ball. So yeah, it's really going to come down to that run defense. If the Bucks can't stop them, it's over for them, I think.
Definitely, because that front four is going to get to Brady.
Yeah.
At least twice, I feel like, in this game. Like a minimum. If not, they're also going to put a lot of pressure on him. But
I don't even necessarily think they will. I could see them going the whole game without actually even sacking Brady, but I think they'll pressure enough into having to rush.
Make bad throws.
Yeah, like where he's going to overthrow people, the routes won't have time to develop, throw off the timing, and maybe even force like an interception from a tip ball. And that's really, I think, what it'll come down to. It's because their offense also really does come down to, it's like either they need the routes time to develop, or they need the route that have that timing. And if you disrupt those, that's where he's been struggling, and people have been doing that. They've been either getting enough pressure the pocket collapses that he has to hurry up the throw, or they just been jamming people and throwing them out, just disrupt him enough that he doesn't have the timing he needs. So he's been throwing it way behind the guy or way over him. So yeah, it sucks that both that and the Titans Patriots games are 10 a.m. games.
Yeah. That's what Red Zone's for.
Right.
And Jets, Texans. I mean, I'm going to take the Texans at this point.
Yeah, after last week, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're forced to start Wilson.
Yeah, at this point, is anyone going to count on Wilson to win a game for you?
Yeah, no. I would say it'd be more evenly matched if Flacco was starting, and there's a chance.
And if they had White, maybe they'd actually win.
Yeah. Oh, poor White.
Yeah. Just ball out and then just miss your next few games for injury or COVID. Talk about rough. Yeah, speaking of rough, Chargers Broncos.
Yeah, liking it rough, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume the Chargers would win, but the Broncos have been such a roller coaster. And the Chargers are still the Chargers. They could easily mess us up. I would say their only chance, I feel like if they get Eckler going for the Chargers, they tend to win more. Yeah. So you stop Eckler, you force it to be on Herbert's shoulders, you got a chance. I think Fangio could do that.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's one of the things where on paper the Chargers should just blow the Broncos out, and it shouldn't be close. Like their offense should just overwhelm them, but I don't have confidence that the Chargers won't charger it up or the Broncos won't have one of those games. So I would definitely lean Chargers, but
you lean Chargers, but you flip that coin.
Yeah, it's this game really could go any direction. Close, low scoring, close, high scoring game. One of the team blown up the other, and I would not be surprised by any of the results. It really does. Just one of those. Pick your poison.
Yep.
Speaking of a game, they're like, I don't know how it's going to go.
Vikings, Niners, because I mean they've both been showing up lately.
Yeah, they have,
Let me see.
but it's also one of those. They've been showing up, but not enough to make me confident either way. Like,
Yeah, because it's the Shanahan have that big brother little brother complex with McVay, which I've heard other people say on like NFL Network and stuff, and like I pushed that before too. So it's like, of course, he blew him out.
mhm.
They beat the Jaguars, which of course, doesn't say a whole lot, but they did beat it. Very definitively. And the Vikings have played good teams with the Chargers and the Packers and have won both.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, given they're a little messy, but they still won.
Well, it's like the one thing I would put in the Vikings' favor is they haven't been blown out.
Mhm.
Like their biggest loss was, I think it's 6 points to the Panthers. Actually, no, sorry, 7 to the Browns. The majority of their losses have been within 4 points. And so, like, some of them were good teams, like Cardinals, Cowboys, Ravens, and Chargers were all close games, and same with Packers. Those are all really close games. Whereas, like, the Niners really feel like they've been more up and down, where they've had, like, close games, but they've also had blowouts. And so that's one of those. But it's also, you guys blew up the Rams. But then you guys had
everyone healthy.
Yeah, but then you guys also had that game against the Lions, which was, what was that? And then the Colts blew you up. And you had a close game against the Cardinals. So that's
like a lot of the close games have been Packers, Cardinals, which that was starting second quarterback, Seahawks. Even the Eagles game was close, but the Eagles, like, I always felt like they were hot and cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lions game was just a drop. The Colts game was just weird, like that. That physically just upset me. And then I will say, like, since the Bears game, Garoppolo's been playing a lot better. So the offense has been playing better. Not necessarily great.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting points now, and the defense, since the Rams game is showing up, it's going to really come down to, can the Vikings stop the Niners' run game? And can the Niners really hold the Vikings' offense at all?
Well, here's the thing. All you really have to do is disrupt Cousins.
And that's going to be a big thing. Can Bosa get in there? Because he's shown that he can get in there.
I
think he can.
I think you guys can. I don't have confidence in the Vikings O-line. They struggle against really good pass rushers. And once you start getting, especially if you are getting pressure and hurrying Cousins in the first half, that's when they really start to fall apart. Because
it falls apart in a second.
Yeah, because it's like, they'll try to run, and they will try to run, and that might do enough. But if you are still getting pressure on Cousins, even with them running, now granted, the caveat is you guys also do that without letting Cook go off in the first half. That is where you get the pressure while also keeping contained and be disciplined in your lanes.
Yeah, I mean, that even takes a tick back to 2019. They stopped Cook, got pressure on Cousins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but if you do that, it doesn't matter how good Theo and Jeffersons are, they're not going to be able to pass it.
Like, the ball can't get to him.
Yeah, he's going to play scared. He's going to overthrow. He's going to make quick throws and bad decisions. They'll start getting turnovers. And you guys definitely could. You have the D-line. The Vikings don't have the offense to do that. And it's also like the Vikings defense just hasn't been there for the last few years. Mr. Mike Zimmer, defensive genius, just... It's every year. It's always like, oh, we've had injuries. It's like, at this point, you guys... He's had Hunter, he's had Griffin, he's had Smith, he has the guys. He needs to deliver at this point if he can.
Yeah, I've noticed that a little bit too with the Vikings defense. They're very to me, they're serviceable. They've kept you in the game,
Hmm.
but they've given up points. And I don't know if that comes down to Zimmer's A, scheme, B, play calling, or C, coaching, or maybe D, all the above. Like,
It really is. He struggles with defensive adjustments, especially. His scheme always seems to he'll have his like 1 or 2 games where like they'll actually do something crazy and throws a wrinkle, but it's generally he runs a lot of fairly straightforward schemes and relies on. His whole thing was like, oh, our front four get the pass rush. It's kind of what you guys do, where it's like just trust your front four to get pressure, and then it'll all fall into place. Problem is, they really like haven't been able to do that consistently. Even with Hunter, they haven't been as consistent with the pass rush, and because of that, that's where they start falling apart. Is because they aren't getting to you, then they just get carved up, especially in the passing game. Like, I mean, Barr is a good pressure linebacker. He's not a good coverage linebacker. The problem is he gets used a lot in coverage when he's healthy. It's they have a lot of good players, but I'm like, Harrison Smith is old. Their corners are like, yeah, they're getting better, but there's still a lot of young guys out there who don't have like the big names in the corners that the DBs they've had. So I think this feels like it could very much be a very winnable game for you guys. This really comes down to if you are able to do what we said, like, contain Cook and pressure Cousins.
Oh yeah.
And then if you are able to block the front four, you do that, I think you guys win it easy.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question. And at the same time, like, if the Vikings can, you can step the box, you stop the run, and then you make Jimmy win the game. Can he win the game? And like, especially if you can stop Debo's runs from the backfield, because he's been dynamic out of the backfield. But if you're stuffing the run, and that includes, Debo, you're going to force Shanahan to get a little creative, which I hope he would. But I don't know. I don't know if Jimmy is confident enough again to be able to carry a game.
That's fair. But another thing also, though, I think is because Debo is good at, especially like, getting out in space with the runs. He's not like, run up the gut kind of rucker. And their biggest weakness when it comes to running is outside. When
the edges.
They get outside the edges, which that's their DNs. They're great for pressure, but pressure DNs tend to not be very good at keeping containment because they're chasing.
Then I feel it might be also come down to if we get Mitchell back and Hasty. Because I think Sermon can get around the edge. Yeah. I think the Wilson, I think he's missing a step, if not half a step. I don't think he can make it because he's been just pushing up the gut. He's been running through the A gap. So if I could see if we get Mitchell, Hasty, and if they can't, if they get Sermon running on the edge. And I know Debo looks to the edge first. He said it in an interview already, like, I'm looking to that corner because I don't want to get hit. Yeah. But if he can't do that, he's like, I'm going to run straight and see what I can make happen. But yeah, that's not option one for him.
Yeah. So, that's the other thing is, if you guys are able to get those outside runs, what that does is that then makes it so instead of being able to have Barr or Smith or whoever be spying on the quarterback and pressuring him, they're now having to be, okay, you got to be keeping your eye on that outside run. They have to essentially take that out of the equation. And especially if it's one of those guys who is that's who they're allowing to get pressure when the front four is not getting it done. You do that, the passing game is going to open it up. The DBs aren't elite enough that I think Jimmy G is passive manageable. That if you guys are able to take one of those guys out by having to, defend the outside run, you're going to get enough passes that you're going to convert, and that tends to snowball. Yeah. The key is listen to the announcers talk about the Vikings having a good third down defense. If they start talking about that, you guys are going to convert every third down. It happens without fail.
Anyone can hope. I do think And like no matter what happens, I think the team that comes out of here with a win, I feel like they're gonna have a good run for that 8th seed at least in the wild card. And that they're gonna be taken a little more seriously. Whoever wins at the same time, it's like I'm gonna be drowning anxiety in meat and beer. So I already know that's gonna happen.
I mean, that sounds like a great combination. So I think I'll have to join you that.
Hey, you're welcome to. Oh my goodness! But yeah, and I do think that the first quarter is going to say a lot.
Oh yeah,
as far as how both teams are going to move. If they're moving fairly similarly, like not really moving on offense, it's going to be the first guy to get moving with the ball. Yeah. But yeah, I think if whichever defense kind of has that morale push,
yeah,
I think it might lean that way.
Yeah. Well, it's whoever's offense runs better on the other team's defense. That's, I think, really what it comes down to. It's
the run game.
Yeah, that's going to be the decider, and it really could go either way because both teams have been up and down. Like, it's interesting. Like, you guys have been a lot more streaky. Vikings have been more consistent, but they've still lost games because they've been close games. They've been close to their games, but they've still been losing. Where you guys have had a lot more up and down variance. So that's why
big win, big loss.
Yeah,
close game. But yeah,
the next matchup is also interesting because it's the Rams and the Packers.
It's gonna be a good game. I'm waiting for those highlights because it could go either way. I feel.
Did the Rams readjust after their bye?
Yep.
That's what I want
to. I mean, you give Odell has more time to practice, so hopefully they can work him in a little bit more. But then, do you also do the Packers pick that up and feel that pressure that the Rams have to get him the ball? Because they seem very pressured to get him the ball when you have Cup. But they also used him really, really well, though, in that Niner game where they used Odell to lessen the coverage on the other guys. Just run down the field. And he drew double coverage and Cup got open. So I think this is it's an even matchup, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I think is also going to be interesting to see, and so why I do while OBJ might not be as toxic as he has been on teams, you really think okay, you have Stafford and Donald, and those both seem like guys who Stafford, he feels like somebody who can handle any diva, because if he can handle Detroit, he can handle anyone.
Yeah.
And then Donald also is just one of those guys where he is one of those larger life personalities that's just a lot of people almost seem to have awe and reverence around him, where it's yeah, okay, yes sir, almost he just has that where he is just, his personality is good at leading and can help bring some of the people check. Jalen Ramsey, well, yeah, he's still Jalen Ramsey. He hasn't been at the same level as we saw. Yeah, he hasn't been quite as Ocho Cinco level Jalen Ramsey. So it's possible that I think OBJ might realize okay, there's enough personalities there to keep him grounded, I think potentially, and there's enough talent that he could see okay, yeah, all right, this is the Browns. This isn't freaking, because that's the other thing also, who did the Browns have to keep his personality in check? Yeah, Mayfield?
Yeah. I mean, Landry did really well at it for a while because they were old college teammates. But no, they ran into that issue. And I personally would give Rams kind of the edge because even with Goff last season in the playoffs, I thought the Rams will win as long as Donald's in the game because he constantly gets pressure on Rodgers. And I think that's going to be the story on this game. He's going to constantly get pressure on Rodgers, and now he's got Von Miller to take some looks away from him or to get Von Miller free.
Yeah. Well, not like that, also, the Packers, their O-line's hurt. Their O-line's hurt, the run game's hurt. This seems like this is primed for the Rams to just have a statement win.
Yeah, I think it'll still be fairly close because Rodgers will sneak away here and there and throw one down to Adams, but
plus it's Lambeau.
Yeah, the Rams should probably win. Unless the Packers decide to flip the script a little bit, go balanced, and run the ball. But
I'm curious. Hang on a sec. Let's see. I'm curious what the forecast is from there. So,
ooh, that's good.
oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it's basically it's going to be cold, but it's supposed to be basically sunny, clear. It's supposed to be a really nice weekend up there. So,
yeah, well, I mean, Stafford's no stranger to playing there.
yeah.
So
No, but that's what I mean. Like, if it was like a snow game, that could maybe affect the Rams. But
yeah,
it'll be
maybe the
cold,
rest of the team.
but that's really about it. So I think the Lambeau might not, other than it being a home game, the weather won't be as big a factor you'd expect for a Thanksgiving Day game in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Browns Ravens.
I mean, if Lamar's back from illness, and then it also looks like Hunt is expected to be back against the Ravens.
Okay.
So they're going to have their 1-2 running punch on that side of the ball, which is going to take pressure off Baker. Like, let's see. I mean, the Browns are underdogs coming into this, but yeah, I think if Lamar's there, then I'd take the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, but also I think it's whose offense is more healthy. Lamar's been out. Baker's playing hurt. They're getting Hunt back.
Yeah. Marquise Brown's been banged up.
Yeah. And especially because how healthy and solid does the Browns defense play? That's I think the other part that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So I would still lean Ravens unless Lamar's out. Then I would lean Browns. But even then, I could still see the Ravens beating the Browns with Huntley just because the Browns are really hurt.
Yeah, I could too. Especially if they have the run game going for him.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be a bigger one. I mean, the Browns have a more consistent run game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Birds, Washington.
I mean, I'm leaning Washington. Not just because I don't like the Seahawks, even though they're the 2-point favorites.
I mean, I think it's because everyone's expecting Wilson to be Wilson when who knows if he's at that level point yet.
I don't think he is yet.
Yeah.
They brought him back too early.
I agree. And also, it's like I think Washington's offense is still relatively healthy. They have all their main pieces. And while, they don't have Young on their defense, they still have enough pieces. Their defense is good, and is a good coach.
They've still been getting pressure.
Yeah, whereas the Seahawks are just way too banged up. Way too banged up, I think. Between, I also feel like they've had, at least one O-lineman get hurt. And I'm pretty sure they've had some, defensive injuries. It's just... It really does feel like they're going through what you guys went through last year. Just so many injuries. It's just a bad
different pieces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just sound like a broken record. Like they don't have that run game to take pressure off Wilson. And he can throw the ball. I mean, he threw over 200 in the last game, but I mean, he's still hurting. And
when he really was healthy, he's not as mobile as he used to. For a quarterback, he's getting older. He's losing a step. He's not as fast. That just happens in the NFL. So
that O-line needs to win.
Yeah, they really. He can't always be scrambling for his life. He can't do what Mahomes was doing for.
Let's also be honest. Years of doing that's catching up with him. He's been doing it his almost entire career. So
exactly. So that's why it would suck to see that to happen to a player like that. Even though he's a division rival, it would suck to see someone like that start to really fall off quickly, and we could potentially see that in the next couple of years, where all of a sudden he just drops off because it's just, you can't do that forever.
Nope. And I lean against the odds and would probably take Washington. So.
Same. I would agree with that.
I mean, for all we know, they might light it up, but they haven't really shown that.
No. I mean, oh, yeah. You have to light it up because I'll put Wilson on my bench this week. Just watch. That's what'll happen. That's how it always goes.
That's funny.
Man, we had a long one today.
Yeah. Well, we got sidetracked a few times. So.
Yeah. We're just
good.
getting prepared for that holiday weekend.
Yep.
The extra stuffing for the stuffing weekend.
There you go. Oh man. And playoff pictures are starting to piece together.
I mean, kind of.
Yep.
Yeah, we say that as like the 3 of the top teams all like lost.
Yeah.
I could very well see this being one of those seasons where like only 1 or 2 teams really have a game locked up in the last 2 or 3 games, which would be really interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It also makes it harder deciding on those like fantasy playoff players too.
Yep.
Because normally you kind of tap into those losing teams because they're going to play harder.
Mm.
But for some of these teams, it's going to come down to the final week.
Oh yeah, yeah, which is both awesome, but also it sucks for fantasy. But it should make for some interesting games because normally you have like those last few weeks where like, oh, starters are resting, but we could very well see at the highest amount of like, nope, too many teams are jockeying for spots, which I am all for.
Yep. Good week ahead of us. We'll hook up. We'll drink.
Drown our sorrows because at least one of us will have a rough time.
One of us will.
Maybe both.
Will be flying high. Yeah. I know. It'll be an emotional Sunday, and I'll fire up the smoker.
I am sold because either way, one of us will have to drown our sorrows in meat and beer.
Exactly.
Well, I think we should call it a night then, because
Completely.
Have fun, everybody.
Everybody happy night.
Eat a bunch of food.
Get that turkey.